Co-op Horde-Shooters. The two notable titles that come to mind are Left 4 Dead 2 and Helldivers 2, one being the pioneer of the genre while the other has made it relevant once again for the general audience. But 2 years before the release of Helldivers 2, an underrated title drops from the Warhammer franchise, Warhammer 40k Darktide. While it experienced a shaky launch, suffering from a lack of promised features and overall feeling unfinished, it's now in a much better state with new content on the way. For those unfamiliar with the game, Darktide is a first-person 4-player horde shooter set in the grim dystopian Warhammer 40k universe, an environment that's dark, oppressive and rich in atmosphere. Newcomers might feel overwhelmed with the idea of giving it a try, as the expansive lore of the Warhammer series can be intimidating for some. Despite the sophisticated theme, it shouldn't be perceived as an entry barrier, since the core gameplay and mechanics should all be familiar to those that are looking for a new horde shooter experience.
If you've played Left 4 Dead 2 and Helldivers 2, then Darktide should entice you. Before we get into its deep combat system, class-based roles, and difficulty, here's how Darktide looks alongside these critically acclaimed titles. Much like Helldivers 2, there are a variety of missions for you to choose from the hub menu. Each one provides a mission brief where you can get an idea on what kind of experience you're getting into. Once the level begins, you experience an immersive linear environment that's filled with common enemies and special enemy types. Each special type poses a threat to you in a certain way, as they can capture you from a distance, or pin you down, but that's not all they can do. Throughout the level, you'll also encounter a task that acts as a hurdle to your progress, where you'll need to work with your teammates to manage the persistent wave of enemies and complete the given objective. Having made these comparisons, we can see how conventional Darktide is as a horde shooter, but there's something about it that makes it stand out.
Combat in Darktide is brutally satisfying. With the given arsenal of blunts and blades, each hit is devastating. From slicing and dicing, to crumpling enemies with sheer force. The sound design and animations add a tremendous sense of quality, enhancing the overall feel and making each moment of combat incredibly rewarding. While it's quite easy to get carried away with Darktide's melee combat system, there's an added depth behind each enemy type that you encounter, so you'll need to access the practice mode known as Arcanium to see every type of the enemy in the game. By recognizing each individual specialist and their attack pattern, it adds a complex element to the game where every engagement can't be dealt with by just forcing a standard attack. This is what makes Darktide's combat stand out, since it forces you to consider all options at your disposal, from timing heavy attacks, to sliding under gunfire, and shoving crowds to relieve pressure. Having an understanding of the game's deeper mechanics can lead to an efficient takedown and better handling of extreme situations. You need to know the strengths and weaknesses of your class, since this is the very first things you choose when starting the game.
As of this video, Darktide features 4 classes: Zealot, Ogryn, Psyker, and Veteran. With the 5th class, Arbitus, set to arrive as DLC, these classes can all be customized extensively, from the apparel and loadout to the attributes and abilities. The more you level up, the more options you have to make your ideal character. Every class features a primary melee weapon and a secondary ranged option. Melee weapons come in various types, such as swords, daggers, axes, and chainswords, providing unique reach, speed, and damage outputs. There's also a set of primary and secondary weapons that are locked to each class, defining a role that the class plays within the team. Although this doesn't necessarily mean that you're forced to play a certain way. The Psyker, for example, is the mage of the group, while they're known for their powers and collection of staves that utilize energy-based attacks. It's still possible to use guns on this class, for those that prefer a traditional experience. This gives you the option of how you want to play. Do you prioritize your own build for a certain playstyle, or do you focus on making a loadout that plays into the strength of the class? This priority is put to the test when you've reached a certain point in the game where you're playing on harder difficulties.
Difficulty ranges from beginner-friendly, Sedition and Uprising to gradually more challenging difficulties in Malice, Heresy and Damnation. As you progress, the number of hordes grow larger, enemies become tougher, and specials appear more consistently. If Damnation isn't difficult enough, Auric levels introduce randomized modifiers and mutators. Enemies hit much harder, environmental hazards can heavily impact the run, and just when you think the hordes are massive, Auric levels unleash an overwhelming swarm of infected. Speaking of modifiers are variables that aim to present the team with difficult circumstances. These can include hunting grounds, where waves of weak but infectious enemies known as mutated poxhounds are sent out to attack you. Poxgas, where certain areas are filled with toxic gas, slowly taking your health down and turning it into corruption. Shock Troop Gauntlet, featuring a high number of specialist enemies. Ventilation Purge, which floods the map with numerous snipers. And Lights Out, a condition where the entire environment is limited in visibility. Aside from environmental events, you could experience high intensity or low intensity engagement zones, resulting in higher or lower amount of hordes and specialists. Playing on Ulrich with various modifiers makes each run unique. Every playthrough offers a new challenge that keeps the experience fresh to prevent repetitive gameplay.
Maps are richly detailed and take place within the hive city of Tertium. Just like classic Horde-Shooter style, there are claustrophobic corridors that can quickly become overwhelmed by hordes of enemies. In between these tight spaces, engagements can take place in open areas, leaving you exposed to gunfire. You'll also get to experience verticality and tight choke points, emphasizing teamwork and strategic positioning. Some maps are reused, but play differently, as they're limited to certain sections. With how often you play a particular location, you become accustomed to the environment and the surroundings. Even if you are to memorize a level, it can still be a challenge to traverse because of the random amount and type of enemies scattered around the map. Tox Flamers and Scab Bombers in particular are able to drastically influence your experience, as gas clouds and fire grenades can cut off key areas, hindering your movement and positioning. Additionally, pathways can be obstructed by demon hosts, a special entity that you don't want to disturb. Some of that challenge also comes from the way the levels are intentionally designed, from cut-off points that prevent backtracking, to narrow walkways and open edges that can lead to unfortunate outcomes.
What truly elevates the experience of playing Darktide is Jesper Kid's masterful score. Known for his work on Assassin's Creed, Hitman, and Borderlands, Kid delivers a jaw-dropping collection of soundtracks that capture the dark, grim atmosphere of Warhammer 40k. Darktide's music blend industrial noise, raw synths, gothic religious tones, and aggressive percussions into unique soundscapes. Hearing the adrenaline-pumping music as you carve through hordes of enemies is pure satisfaction at its peak. The situation intensifies when you can identify a boss's theme in the middle of a combat.
So, if you're looking for a Horde-Shooter to play with your friends, Darktide delivers a one-of-a-kind experience that should feel familiar but intriguing, with added depth to its core mechanics and sophisticated enemies. Teamwork is a must if you want to thrive and experience the expansive progression system that keeps players coming back for more.